Yes, I'm Lyn Ulbricht, and my son is Ross Ulbricht. He's the defendant in the Silk Road case, and he was given double life sentence plus 40 years without the possibility of parole for all nonviolent charges for his role in the Silk Road website, or what the prosecutor said it was. He was never charged with causing any death or bodily injury to anyone, no violence at all, first-time offender. This is for something that he did when he was 26 years old. So, Silk Road, it was an online marketplace that was designed to protect the privacy and anonymity of its users. And it was pretty much up to people on the site what they exchanged, as long as it was voluntary and did not use force. So, because of that, things like child porn were prohibited. Stolen property was prohibited. Violent services were prohibited. Anything that caused harm and used force and wasn't voluntary. However, drugs were allowed. It was mostly user amounts of cannabis, probably about 75% is what I've been told, was cannabis on there. But there were illegal drugs, and it was considered that it was a free choice of adults. And the other thing about it was the only means of exchange on the site was Bitcoin. It was the first Bitcoin market, and actually proof of concept for Bitcoin, and showed that it could actually be used as a currency. And this got the attention of some very powerful people. But it's also why many people say that Ross is the second most important figure in Bitcoin's history after Satoshi Nakamoto. And many people have told me that Bitcoin would be an unknown thing without Silk Road. And I think that is what got the attention of these powerful people, led by Senator Chuck Schumer of New York. He spearheaded the investigation and prosecution of Ross and Silk Road. He called for the takedown of Bitcoin and Silk Road. He was a senior member of the Senate Finance Committee and banking committees, and very much involved with the financial forces of Wall Street. And I believe, personally, that this is why they went after my son so hard, that this was a big threat to the system. Here's this upstart currency that was out of their control. This was basically confirmed last March when The Intercept revealed that the NSA was targeting Bitcoin users a few months before the takedown of Silk Road and Ross's arrest. And you know, they're supposed to be going after terrorists. They were going after Bitcoin users. And in those days, if you were going after Bitcoin users, you were going after Silk Road. So this was a big concern of the government. And the philosophy behind Silk Road, and Bitcoin, really, is one of a free market, free choice. And the judge at sentencing referenced this, and she said, it's notable that the reasons you started Silk Road were philosophical, and I don't know that it's a philosophy left behind. And she called it a troubling and dangerous philosophy. Just to be clear, it's a philosophy of monetary freedom and free choice. And this is a violation of the First Amendment right to free speech. And she said, this is one of the reasons that Ross has to stay in a cage for the rest of his life, because his philosophy is too dangerous to be let out. However, you know, and you could say, well, oh, well, they're trying to protect us from drugs and drug dealers, but the biggest drug seller on Silk Road got 10 years. The person convicted for that. He and Ross have the same score. And if you look further down, I mean, there's 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. And then you come down to Blake Benthall, who admitted to running Silk Road 2, which came online after Silk Road was taken down. And it was bigger, had more listings than Silk Road. He's free. He did 13 days in custody and he is out. So my question is, if Ross is so dangerous that he has to be in jail for the rest of his life, why is Blake Benthall free? That's not dangerous. So there's a lot of sentencing disparity. It flies in the face of the Sentencing Reform Act that Congress passed to prevent this kind of disparity. And, we're supposed to be treated equally under the law. Now, there's other questions that came up. There's a lot to this case, and you're welcome to come by our booth. The other thing I was going to say is there's a wonderful Bitcoin museum out there. It's an art installation, really. There's a whole room dedicated to Ross, and this sentencing disparity is displayed there as well. I really recommend you go through it. It's really neat. Made my daughter and me tear up and get chills. It was really great. But anyway, there are other questions I don't have time to go into, but if you go to freeross.org, we go into it in great detail. So one of them is something that was brought before the Supreme Court out of this case, and it's a Fourth Amendment question of privacy. And the question is, does the government violate the Fourth Amendment if they delve into all of our internet browsing history, activity, anything we're doing on the internet without a warrant, without probable cause, in secret, with no oversight? And the government says, yeah, we do. We have the right to do that. And they're basing it on this technology. 4 decades old. This came up with dial telephone for the Supreme Court saying, can we put a pen register on a dial telephone and find out what the number is? That's the only information they had without a warrant. And there was dissenting opinion, but it did pass, and it became what's known as a third-party doctrine, because if you give your information to a third party, in that case a phone company, you give up your right to privacy and the Fourth Amendment protections, is what they're saying. And of course now, things have changed just a little. So we're not just talking about a dialed telephone number. We're talking about endless relevant information, medical records, religious orientation, political interests and allegiances, sexual orientation, apps. I mean, it goes on and on. And under this antiquated doctrine, the government still can just have free reign over all of your internet activity, use it against you, and it's all fine with the courts. They haven't changed it. And some of the justices have said it needs to be changed, but it hasn't happened, and they didn't do it with Ross's case either. And that, because this is exactly what they did with him. And, this puts us all in a situation where we have no Fourth Amendment protection in the digital age, essentially. And dramatically limits our privacy. And it also opens up officials and congresspeople and people in power to blackmail. They may be doing something on the internet that they don't want the public to know. And yet the government can go in there and find it and use it to blackmail them. They can use it to persecute people of certain political or religious persuasions, et cetera. It's a slippery slope. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court chose not to address it this time. There's so much more to this case. I'll just touch on a few high points, low points. There were 2 corrupt agents that were at the core of the investigation. They had free reign of the site. They had the ability to act as the top-level admin of the site, Dread Pirate Roberts. They stole, I'm not sure exactly how much, around $1 million worth of Bitcoin, and they are now both in prison. And yet the jury was not allowed to know they even existed. This was kept from the jury. After trial, it was discovered that parts of the evidence that the jury saw had been deleted, that a totally other narrative was displayed because of the tampering, and this can only be addressed again in another trial. It also was proven and discovered after trial that Dread Pirate Roberts, someone using that account, logged in after Ross was already arrested. There was a lot of question about how many DPRs and it's pretty well established anecdotally, and then there's evidence of multiple DPRs, and yet Ross got the burden of the entire, everything that went on that site. We went ahead because there's so much misinformation and so much, just basic lies out there, that we went into the public record, and we made a document called Railroaded, the Targeting and Caging of Ross Ulbricht. It's based solely on the public record. It's not our opinion. It's all in there, and there's almost 400 footnotes. There's also an audio component. That sounds kind of boring, but it's actually quite riveting if you check it out, and I learned a lot just working on the project. So I want to quickly read a letter from Ross. I told him I was coming here. Of course, he so wishes he could be here with you. I know you'd all love him. He would love you. So I want to read this letter. This is from Ross. Hi, everyone. This is an exciting time for Bitcoin, isn't it? When I first learned about it, it was trading for 6 cents or so. It's incredible to see something increase 300,000-fold in value. Wow. I saw its potential back then to transform our world, and it hasn't disappointed. If anything, it has exceeded my expectations. Now there's a multitude of altcoins that have sprung up and found their niche. With dozens of coins experimenting with variations on Satoshi's invention, I have faith that we'll find the optimal path forward, learning from each other's mistakes and copying success. We are in the middle of a profound technological revolution. It's beautiful and awesome. I'm grateful just to be bearing witness to it. It's also a profound opportunity. Our subculture is having an outsized influence on society right now that will only grow. We are the future, my friends. I've been in prison for a few years now, so I'm, quote, out of the loop, but it's given me perspective as well. Now more than ever, we need a measure of self-reflection. Let us not forget our roots as we push ahead. Let us stay grounded in the principles that Bitcoin was incubated in: decentralization, a focus on empowering individuals, and a community of love and respect. I'm proud of how we've flourished and optimistic that the best is yet to come. I'm fighting every day for my freedom, and I'm hopeful that one day I'll be out there with you. Ross. Thank you. But this case is about more than Ross or Silk Road. And as Scott Greenfield said, it's about the birth of law as applied to our digital future. Watch it as a spectator at your peril. At the least, if you feel that this sentence is excessive, that a double life sentence for a young man who is not accused of killing or inflicting any bodily injury on anyone, who is basically accused of creating a website, is wrong, please go to and sign our petition. It's online at freeross.org/petition, or just our website homepage is a big red banner. Please sign it. My goal is 500,000. I want to go to the president and say, pay attention. People care about this. Please commute his sentence. This sentence is wrong. It's setting a horrible precedent for so many other people in the criminal justice system that have been over-sentenced. It's a disgrace what's going on in the criminal justice system. That's a whole other speech. If you have any political contacts, please let me know. I'm trying to build a coalition of people who can get the president's ear. He has the power to commute this sentence. And of course, we always need donations and any other skills. There's a Take Action page on our site, which I should have up here. And here I am with Ross. And, and help us on social media and to change the narrative. Also, I just want to call attention to this amazing painting over here, this artwork. It's called Silk Road. It's a camel race in Dubai, but it also represents the kind of freedom that Ross is so in favor of, and so many of you. It is actually normally listed at $50,000 for the original, and it's in honor of the bear market, and it's up for auction at $10,000, and you can, I guess, you can go to our site, but you can also come to our booth and do that. And yeah, half of this, the $10,000 goes to our fund, our fund. So anyway, and the artist is here to talk about it after the speech. So please spread the word. Please walk beside us if you're inspired to do that. We have lots of information at our booth. Would love to meet you. So please come by and sign the petition. Please sign the petition. And stay in touch. Thank you so much for hearing me out, and I'll see you over at my booth. Bye.
Lyn Ulbricht, ladies and gentlemen.